Hi, it's raining really bad where I'm at, and I just got trapped outside. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about various dances. I do is kind of a series on different dances that people in romantic relationships often do, whether they know they're doing it or not. And so, what I would like to talk to you about is the fearful avoidant dance. Okay. And that dance is going to look slightly different depending on who their partner is, who they're dancing with. But I would like to just sort of kind of give you the outline of what the dance looks like, and then I will do other ones on how that dance is going to vary a little bit depending on who the other partner is. So, you might have like your basic dance moves, but then there might be variants of that dance depending on who's actually doing the dance with the fearful avoidant and whether the fearful avoidant leans fearful, anxious, or leans avoidant. And that's often going to depend on who the partner is. If they are with someone more anxiously attached person, they're going to lean avoidant. And if they are, on the other hand, with a more avoidant partner, like a dismissive avoidant, they're going to lean fearful or anxious. So, a lot of people do these videos on how to get your fearful avoidant ex back after a breakup. And while I appreciate people that approach this from all different angles, my goal is not to help you get your ex back. If that is your goal, then go somewhere else. My goal is to make my audience aware of the dance, aware of what's going on, so they can make the best choice possible for them as to whether they want to continue this dance or not. And there's no judgment for me whether you do continue it, whether you don't. But I want to teach you what this dance is, what it's going to look like, how it's likely going to play out in your life. And then you can be empowered to decide, do I like this dance or is this not the dance for me? Okay, so with a fearful avoidant, how this dance is going to look, and again, I'll do segues on depending on who they're dancing with, is at first you're going to get something similar to like a love bombing, not love bombing in a mean, malicious way to manipulate you, but this person really has these deep seated needs and wants to connect and be loved and be enmeshed, like really in a relationship. They want that. A true fearful avoidant does, is they are anxious. So they have, again, the two core abandonment wounds. They both. That's why they're only like 7% of the population. This is not a common attachment style. It really isn't. It's rare. Less than 1 in 10 people, it's 7 in 100 people have it. And so they have both the fear of abandonment, which you see in the anxiously attached person, but they also have the fear of losing themselves, the fear of abandoning themselves, the fear of being sucked up too much in a relationship, which is what you have in the dismissive avoidant attachment style. All in the insecure. This all falls under insecure. None of this is secure. And so, what this dance will look like is at first, when you first get into the relationship with them, that deep seated core want for connection, relationship, to be in relationship with someone, to be connected to someone, to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, it's going to be the driving force. And so they're not going to mirror you like a narcissist is. Like I was with a narcissist and everything I liked, they liked everything I wanted, he wanted. No, 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 no. This person's going to probably keep their own identity. I was liberal, he leaned conservative. I was not very religious. He was quite religious. I like certain things. He liked certain different things. Like he did not mirror me at all. So they're not going to mirror you like the narcissist does, but they're going to kind of figure out what you need, what you want, and they're going to try to provide that to you. Probably go above and beyond what you'd even expect, right? And so, like, if they find out that like you really like something, they're going to give it to you to the best of their ability and then some. If they find out that you have some worries, you have some concerns, they're going to try to meet those needs and even exceed them. Like, if you have concerns about something, maybe you have concerns about, oh, your car isn't working or something like that. They're going to the best ability, get your car fixed, get it up and working, maybe even buy you a new car. I don't know. Like they're going to do things like that. They are going to genuinely want to meet those needs, and they're going to want to be heard, seen, appreciated for who they are. And they want that very, very, very strong attachment. But what the fearful avoidant fears more than anything else is feeling, is emotions, is real, real feelings, not the positive ones, kind of even the positive ones, but any sort of conflict. They're so conflict avoidant. Any sort of anything not going just so right because it triggers their fear of abandonment. Another thing they don't like is to kind of lose control. They like to be in control. They can be jealous. They can be possessive. They like to maintain some level of control because they don't want to lose themselves either. So it's both. It's this push and pull. It's both. It's they want this independence. I'm my own person. I don't want to lose control of that. I need to be in charge. Coupled with, I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want to be alone. I want to be loved. I want to be in a relationship with someone. I need that person. And so it's this push and pull, push and pull, push and pull dynamic. So what will happen is you, depending on how long the relationship is, it can go on quite a while before something gets triggered in them. And so they can be triggered for lots of ways. And I've seen like lists of what triggers them. And it's all like sort of mostly these relationship milestones, like whether it is that you make your relationship official. Maybe you go from just talking once in a while to talking more often. Maybe you come up with some expectation that you're going to see each other every weekend. Maybe you're going to move in together. Maybe you're going to get married. Maybe you're going to have a kid. Or maybe the relationship is going to end. Any of those sort of things will trigger their core abandonment wound. And it'll trigger either the wound of being rejected or the wound of losing themselves, right? And so you go from this perfectly fine, nice relationship to you won't even realize it. You won't even know because they could be driving completely this commitment path and you triggered them. Something triggered them. You didn't trigger them. They got triggered, right? And they will go from being in love with you and meshed with you, totally wanting to spend the rest of their lives with you, to hunker down in a cave like a turtle retreated into a shell. They will want nothing to do with you. Well, they will not want to talk to you. They will decide that the relationship was horrible, awful, no good. And they will ghost you, basically. Everything but ghost. They may even ghost you, right? They could block you, that kind of thing. And so they are just like a turtle, totally retracted into their shell because they had to feel something. And they are unable to feel, right? I remember mine saying things to me like, I never fight. And if I won't have a fight, I won't get into conflict. I won't have an argument. He talked about a relationship he was in where they never fought. 20 years, never fought. Now that relationship ended horribly. And I could go into that reasons why later. But, that was just cannot fight, cannot argue, cannot express any sort of emotional needs. Emotions are to be swamped, trampled down, got rid of. You can't have emotions, can't deal with that, right? And so they'll get triggered. And so they will go from the love of your life and you're the love of their life to totally don't want anything to do with you, ghosting you, completely ignoring you. All right. Can't pick up a phone and talk to you. Like they literally can't do it. It's not in them to do it. And so it's their way to self-soothe because whenever they were little, that's what they had to do. They had to self-soothe. They had to disassociate. And so they at this point they're disengaged. Like they're disassociating, they're deactivating is what they call it. And so they get cold, they get unloving, they get very dismissive of your needs. If they'll even address it, their text will be like one word, maybe a sentence, where before, it was constant back and forth and meaningful sentences and paragraphs and that kind of stuff. And while they're in this state, what they'll do is they will convince themselves that your relationship was garbage, just total garbage. And they will think of any silly, awful, like silly, trivial thing to why it couldn't work. You could have had a perfectly good relationship and it's just, it moved too fast. Even if they wanted it to move that fast, that triggered them. Or, an emotion came up and that triggered them and something triggers them, right? And it has nothing to do with you. Don't let it yourself think it has anything to do with you. It's about that. about their core wounds. And they will convince themselves. Now, I've done another video on this about different things that they'll say, silly things, but it can be things as trivial as you like to have ice in your soda and I don't, and how could that ever work in a relationship? Or, I want to live in a 1-story house and you want to live in a 2-story house. Like that would be actually a bigger thing that mostly they give you. It's something very, very, very trivial that you get. Like mine was like once a year he might want to go skiing and he might not be able to do that. And when I said, well, I would always let you go skiing, just go skiing, no, that would just be too much on me. It would be unfair to me. And he might want to hypothetically do this. And then, he couldn't be a good partner to me because he'd be skiing once a month. I mean, once a year or something like that. It's just some trivial, strange reason that is like, you think that they're kind of trolling you or messing with you, but they've in their mind constructed this narrative that it just can't work. And then they think of like dumb things that rational people would be like, that's not a reason to break up, but for them it is at that point. And then they get into their from the good relationship they're triggered here, and so now they're moving into their anxious, their avoidance side is the dance. So the avoidance, so disassociate, will not talk to you, think of all the awful things you've ever done or why they can't be with you, make things up, trivial things why the relationship can't work. And they will engage in their creature comforts, as my friend says, and that's things like whatever this kind of brings them comfort and joy, they'll do that in excess. So if they like to watch shows, they might binge watch Netflix. If they like to go to the gym, they might go twice a day. If they like to bike, they might go on a biking, way more often than they normally do. If they drink, they'll start drinking more. If they gamble, they're going to start gambling more. They're going to do those creature comforts that give them comfort, safety, make them feel safe, and then that allows them to further push down their feelings and disassociate their feelings, separate from their feelings, and not have to feel their feelings for the person that they were in this relationship with that they just ended, or it was just ended with them. And then after a while, and this cycle can take various amounts of time depending on the person, how bad they were hurt. That won't be enough for them to suppress their feelings. That even doing these kind of things, their feelings are going to start bubbling up. And so they're going to go to extremes. And so they're going to start doing something in extreme. So if they drink, if they maybe just here at the first phase, they just started drinking a little bit more, they might start binge drinking. If they went out with their friends a little bit more often, they might every day be out with friends. If they maybe they like the adrenaline stuff, type of activities, so they'll plan a trip to go jump off of a plane or bungee jump. I don't know if people still bungee jump, but or windsurf or something like kind of like an extreme sport. They'll want to do something like that because it gives them the adrenaline, it gives them the dopamine hit, and then that allows them to further suppress their feelings, suppress their emotions, and not have to deal with the hurt and the fears and the abandonment issues that they have, that their core wound. And then after a while, that won't work either. And there's a small side step in this sort of dance that they might do as well. And that is they might do a sort of a rebound relationship, right? They might get on Tinder or something like that. And again, this is the point of that is the same thing as, the creature comforts or the extremes. It's to be able to continue to disassociate, to continue to shut down, to continue to disengage with their feelings, push those down and focus somewhere else and get dopamine, cheap dopamine elsewhere, instead of that dopamine that they're used to get from that relationship. So that's their anxious side. It's like what first kicks in mostly. Their avoidant side. That's what kicks in first. And then if enough time goes on, their anxious side is going to start to kick in. And you're going to start to see sort of these passive sort of reach out attempts, because deep down they're still afraid of processing their feelings and getting hurt and abandonment, and they're fearful of this sort of thing. And so they will little by little reach out to you, but it'll be sort of like, the turtle pokes his head out. It may be something even hostile, mean, that kind of thing. It'll be passive aggressive. Might be something like, all good things must come to an end, that kind of thing. It'll be, but it is an attempt to connect. It is a reach out. The turtle goes from being completely in its shell, hunkered down, to, maybe we'll poke its head out a little bit. And then if it, does that and it's not, threatened, it may come out further. And then they may try to reach back out, maybe try to salvage the relationship. Maybe they, start to actually think with their actual thinking brain, not just like their animal instinctual brain. And so then they might revisit some of the stupid reasons why they convinced themselves this relationship was doomed from the start, and be like, well, maybe it's not a big deal that she likes Coke and I like Pepsi. Maybe we can make that work. Or maybe, she wants a 2-story house and I want a 1-story house. Maybe we could get a split entry house or something like that. They'll start to talk rationally. And it's at that phase that you, who was madly in love with this person, who is blindsided by their sudden withdrawal and like how disengaged they got, and how they shut down, the way they shut down, how they deactivate. You might be sitting here thinking, "Oh my gosh, thank God they finally came to their senses. They do love me." Blah blah blah. Especially if you have an anxious attachment style, you might be like, "Oh, just give me back that person. I want to be loved. I love this person. They finally come back to me, right? I love." And then that, you get your dopamine hits as well. And then that everything, that void feels like it's been filled and everything's great and wonderful, right? That dance will continue. That dance will continue. And it'll get shorter and shorter and shorter between their periods of being deactivated, triggered, and then deactivated. And it'll take longer for them to cycle through that. So for me, the first time, it was about a year and a half of our entire relationship before he got triggered and did this. He did littler triggers before, but the big one was about a year and a half in. And then, it took about a month for him to cycle through that. I was just happy that, we're having a second chance. Didn't understand exactly what was going on. By then it was like 3 months later and it happened again. So what you have to ask yourself is this a dance that I want to dance? Is this, do I like this music because the music's going to stay the same? Do I like the footwork of this dance because that's going to stay the same, or even get more complicated, less rewarding, less joyful? Maybe the dance, has some of the fancy turns that you just love in it. There'll be fewer and fewer and fewer of those the more times you go through this dance, the more times this relationship is allowed to cycle before someone just says enough and walks away. So I'm not here to tell anybody to stay in a relationship or to get out of a relationship. What I am here to do is to explain the dance, to educate you so you can make the decision whether this dance is one you want to dance, or a dance that you want to, with pride and dignity, just sort of bow out of and say, thank you, it was fun, but this is not my dance. This is not my music. Thank you.